I look like very lit up right now. I look
Yeah.
extraterrestrial.
Got a sun exploding outside your window.
Yeah. I do. Okay, cool. All right, man. Ready to rock.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much I actually told you about this podcast. It's a pretty casual thing. I'm calling it Aaron's Indie View, but I've been, after 3 episodes I've recorded, I think I might have to change the name to Artist Mental Wellness Check, because after this last year, 2020, what needs to be said about it. But part of the reason I started this was just to, catch up with people that I haven't talked to in a long time, because I haven't been doing conventions. I haven't, traveling, haven't done anything. And the few people I've talked to have been really equally desperate to just talk to people about comics or whatever, you know what I mean? Everybody's I think they're definitely feeling the effects of a year-long quarantine.
Yeah, it's weird. In some ways you would think, particularly for people whose projects aren't very collaborative,
mm-hmm.
or who could easily be kind of orchestrated, online, it'd be a good time for productivity.
Right.
But what I learned was that the constant crushing uncertainty and existential terror might not be super conductive for everyone's creativity.
Yeah, definitely.
I would say so. Like a lot of people, I had just epic shitloads of very important plans for 2020.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of which I had poured a lot of money into, which I will probably never see.
Yeah.
And so I'm in a position where I feel like I've got all these things to complain about, but at the same time, nobody in my family died, man. So it's I also feel like, what right do I have to complain?
Mm-hmm.
My Oma is out there, just brazenly disregarding safety measures, and somehow she survives.
Mm-hmm.
So what right do I have to really, bellyache that much? But I had some projects that I feel just objectively I should have been able to really pour a lot of time and energy into, but I found myself very unable to make progress just because I just wasn't in the headspace for it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because it feels a little bit like we're in some kind of Resident Evil prequel.
Yeah,
a little bit.
There's in the back of your mind, you're there's a chance, this could go down that road. We could be living in Resident Evil. Probably not likely, but just knowing there's that weird little outsider chance really does mess with you.
They didn't think they were going to be living in Resident Evil either. You know
exactly.
What I'm saying? But it's I don't know, man. And I also think we got some missed opportunities here. I think we as a people should have put energy into more awesome gas masks and bio equipment just to wear on the regular.
Right.
We should have been suiting up in hazmat suits, retrofitted to everyday casual wear.
Mm-hmm.
I think we should have gone full in on it.
Well, that's what I have noticed. Some of the cosplay people, they have enjoyed the heck out of this, being able to just go out and put on a costume and a mask, and it's they're living the dream.
And how weird is it? In 2019, if I go into a gas station with a mask on, they call the cops, and that's flipped now.
Yeah, it's
I gotta put a little bandana up, I'm a Wild West train robber when I go in to pump some gas, man.
Yeah,
that's pretty. I don't know. It's just such a strange
I have to
world.
say, I'm not complaining about the mask thing, because I actually like wearing a bandana when I'm out in public. I like the anonymity. Yes, that it affords me. I totally cop though that it does. That is a subtle problem. Not. There's a barrier between human communication. So much communication is done just through facial expressions, smiling at people, and it's you don't really think about how much is lost until you're not doing that. And then I find myself smiling at people or smirking or trying to give that a very primal, like, you know, when you just like pass somebody in the street and you're just like, hey, I'm no threat. Like that's the message you're trying to express with your face. And if you're wearing a mask, you do not express that at all. In fact, you might even look more threatening if you're doing something weird with your eyes, but nothing else.
It's funny to hear you say that, because I thought about the kind of the same thing. Because like I did a long stint in rehab or not rehab. Well, may have been rehab, but retail.
Oh,
a long stint in retail.
Retail, yeah.
For which I need rehab now.
I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah. Through retail, like I developed a very automatic habit of like smiling at people.
Correct.
And I think that I didn't realize how much of my communication to the world has been that.
Yeah.
Like attempted disarming, like you know, facial expressions, totally gone now.
Yep.
But by that same token, just like you were saying, there's lots of times when I'm like, I just like, you know, exercise for an hour and I look like total shit. But I don't even care if I go into like, you know, the minute mark to grab like something, because nobody, you know, if I run into that person from high school that I haven't seen in 15 years, it doesn't matter if I look like garbage.
Right.
Because they don't have any idea who I am. I am just a cipher.
Yeah, exactly.
Glittering in and out of the periphery. They just, you know, so they're, it's a double, it's so strange. It's a strange dynamic they've introduced into our kind of typical interactions with the world.
Yeah. It's interesting.
You know what I think about too? It's going to be real interesting. Like, you know, when your kids are like digging around, or your grandkids are digging around in the attic, and they're like, what's this, Dad? Like, oh, that's Grandpa's old plague mask from back in 2020, when a horrible disease ravaged the planet and killed basically mostly old people. You know, it's going to be really strange.
It's going to be a weird conversation.
Yeah. They're going to be in museums, man. Like these masks are going to be a weird little relic of this era.
That's the thing too, is like, if you always see some of those pictures crop up from like the Spanish flu pandemic, and it's like, yeah, people were wearing masks, and it's like, yeah, okay, I never really thought about it. You know, you never really see pictures like that regularly. Whenever you're just like looking through history, there's not like, here's that period for a few years in 1919 when everybody was wearing masks. The difference is now everything is videoed and photographed. There's just such an abundance of footage that you're not going to be able to escape it. Like anytime, you know, like news footage, you know, anything, you're just going to see so much masks compared to looking at the history, you know, from 100 years ago.
Yeah, man, it's going to be strange. The only thing is, I wonder, like, to what degree will future generations completely disregard that footage because they just straight up don't care because they think that it's old and boring?
Probably a lot. But anyway, so on the subject of dealing with 2020 and like creative projects, like what have you been working on? Like I know, like when we last spoke, which at this point has been several years, like when we did on the old podcast, I know you were talking about doing some short film stuff. Is that correct? Are you still working on that?
Well, so here's what happened. We were shooting a feature, and we got about 70% of the way through it, and we hit some pretty substantial production, nearly insurmountable production problems. I don't particularly feel like I'm at liberty to get into, but the long and short of it is, we had a movie that was about 70% done. And we weren't sure how we were going to finish it, so I just put out a trailer for it. We weren't really anticipating a lot of interest in it. We just kind of put out a trailer just so that we could show something, and then we pivoted to another production and started putting this next thing into pre-production pretty quick. And then, much to my delight but surprise, the reaction to the trailer was very, very positive.
Oh, great.
We started to get a couple dozen people emailing me or messaging me per day trying to buy the movie that didn't exist.
Oh, wow.
And a couple different people approached me offering money to help me finish the production. So where I was at then was I would have to untie a knot to get that production moving again. But we also had a different production already kind of in a place that I didn't want to stop that momentum. So I felt like I was in kind of like a, it felt like a good problem to have, but it was still something I was working out. So what happened was we ended up closing out 2019 with like this next project this next film, it was going to be a feature-length film, as dialed in and majestically pre-produced as anything I've ever touched. I had done so much work on it. I'd casted everybody. I had everything going. And then here comes 2020 and my movie just disappears in a puff of smoke.
Oh no.
And so now what am I doing, man? Like, I know there are some people out there who are kind of, they're just doing it anyway. But like my girlfriend, who, I love her very much. She's got some respiratory problems that would probably be a really big problem if she got COVID. And then both of my parents are in high risk groups. And and my little brother worked with this kid for 12 years who was 30, had no health problems. He caught COVID and was dead in 2 weeks.
Oh,
so
man.
It happens. It's real, So I just wasn't really willing to kind of risk it. So here I am now in 2021. I just talked to one of the actresses yesterday. I was like, hey, if we make this movie, do you still want to do it? And she said, yes. So, I mean, I guess we still got something when the world turns back on. But so I'll go ahead and kind of plug the whole thing. The short we did, foul language incoming. That's fine, right?
Oh, yeah. That's fine.
Okay. It's a splatter movie. One of the projects I'm working on is I'm writing a book about German splatter films, and I've been working on that for several years. It's going really, really well. But writing about German splatter films made me want to make my own splatter film, so we did. And it is as crude and vulgar as possible on purpose. It's called Bloodfuck: The Legend of Manglin Murphy.
Nice.
And it's about a serial killer who is going through a really messy divorce. That's not why he's killing people. It's just also happening at the same time. He's killing people, but also he's going through a lot. His wife's leaving him. It's a whole big thing for him. And that's the movie we made 70% of the way through. The new project was called Hellscream, just because it sounded like a cool, heavy metal title to me.
Yeah.
But we now have a couple other titles we're circling if we do shoot it again. But given that we weren't able to work on that at all, I kind of floundered and pivoted to a couple things I could do that were less collaborative. I did do a podcast for a little while there called Internet Movie Show, which I'm retooling now. I like the project, but I'm retooling it. I kind of want to get it a little bit more dialed in. But I'm also working on music just because it was something I could do by myself that I wouldn't really have to rely on other people for. I used to do music a lot more seriously. So I have a big batch of songs. So it's kind of like an indie rock thing. Band is called Snail, Snale.
Okay.
And I have kind of 2 batches or albums, I guess, worth of material that are almost done. But there's I don't know how to do any of this, man. I've never been the only guy in the studio, so I'm trying to make it not suck, and it's really hard.
I was gonna say that's got to be challenging because when I was many years ago when I did music, I think the only way personally I was able to figure out how to do anything was because I was with a group of other guys also trying to figure it out. I really needed that band. I had a total fear of trying to do anything on my own, I needed to have those other guys around me just to feel like it was a group effort that we could all kind of trust each other and stand on each other. Doing something on my own is the scariest thing in the world.
Well, in some ways, I think I used to be that way too. But I think also, I had this, because when I was doing music more seriously, where I am in the Pacific Northwest, it seems like most folks are just straight up flaky as hell. And they're just not really reliable. Even this project, I have had 5 or 6 people commit with passion to working on this with me. And where are they, man? I can't get them to do anything. I can't get them to actually just be there and do the work.
Yeah.
So I think I got to a point where I kept thinking someone was going to show up and bail me out and help me. And I can't do this. I'm trying so hard. I kept thinking someone's going to show up who knows how to do this and they're going to help me do it. And that person just never shows up.
Yeah.
So I just started to think either I'm going to grow old and gray and die with nothing to show for this, or I'm just going to figure out how to do it on my own. And I think that's just kind of how it's going. I think for me, writing the songs, playing the songs, that's all good. It's all the studio stuff, making it sound good. I'm no engineer, I'm no producer. I don't know the first thing about this shit.
Yeah.
So
I had the same
that's
problem.
very hard for me.
Yeah. I had a very similar epiphany, like kind of over the years of doing various creative projects, whether it be music and comics. Like,
yeah,
there is a certain point where you do have to just like wake up and realize that nobody cares about you as much as you should care about you. You need to just learn to just do it all on your own, because you really cannot count on anybody else. And that doesn't, it's not meant to sound as nihilistic as it can, because I think you can develop, I do have some good working relationships and friendships with some artists that I know I can rely on. And those are the people that I'm continuing to work with. But there have been so many times where I'm shocked at how many times, like even a paid work, like it can be difficult to get an artist or a musician or just like creative people in general, just to like do work and finish it with a deadline, and they're getting paid. It's not no pro bono, just like it's real gigs, and people still flake out on it. It blows my mind that happens.
Yeah, it's really rough. So the biggest reason that I believe our relationship started simply because of comics.
Yeah.
And for me, I always did comics. I love comics. I love it as a medium, and I love working in it, and I love to draw. For me, my foray in comics really started because of how burnt out I was with trying to collaborate with people on movies.
Mm-hmm.
I was shooting low budget, no budget horror films, and that is a impossibly collaborative medium.
Right.
And I reached a point where I was so burnt out on people promising and not following through that I wanted something, a world I could just make on my own. And that's what a comic was for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually that came to the point where the time investment needed is pretty amazing for comics if you want to do it on your own.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's so like, that's kind of where I got on that. Like, I just simply didn't have the time to do that like I needed to. And then eventually I get back into trying with movies, and I don't know. The last one worked out pretty okay.
Yeah.
All things considered. But yeah, it's really brutal, man. Finding people who have passion seems to be easy, but finding with people with passion and some sort of work ethic,
discipline,
it's hard.
Yeah, it's very hard. Yeah. And that's why, when you find those people, like you need to like cement that working relationship. You can't let that go.
No, you can't. The guy that I work with on these movies, it's a dude named Dylan Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
He and I, we have known each other for about 20 years now. I just realized that the other day.
Mm-hmm.
He's like the only guy I know who wants to make movies as much as I do, and whose idea of what a movie should be basically overlaps with mine.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not the most reliable person in the world, but I also know where he lives, and I know that I can just go force him. Like we have known each other that long. We're like, I can find Dylan and just be like, I'm going to beat your ass if you don't get on that set. And like, it's going to be like that conversation's not the end of our relationship,
Yeah.
The next day goes fine.
Yeah.
So that's why that works. But those are precious resources, man. People who actually follow through are tough to find.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's why, that's actually in like last year, it's weird that 2020 happened the way it did, because like it was like right at the point where I was kind of in the middle of like being a little burnt out on comics, but like I hadn't quite realized it yet, just because I'd been doing comics for a long time, but just writing. Like I was never satisfied with my ability to draw, so it can be really frustrating to just like constantly working on the production side of things. And there's so much involved like in the production of comics. Obviously not as much as a movie, but there's a lot involved, and there's like it takes time to produce a comic. And so 2020 actually was the year when I decided to just like sit down and just really start cranking out some prose, and just like, And I was able to kind of experience that like just relying on yourself feeling, like that. It was like a really nice artistic release, because I was just like, yeah, I could just do this, just write something. I got a story done and I can just get it out there, and I don't have to, there's not all these like layers of production that I got to pay attention to, making sure it all looks right and all this stuff. So it was actually very freeing, which allowed me to then like appreciate the comic projects that I'm still working on like a little bit more, without like feeling like an overwhelm, or like being overwhelmed by everything. I don't know, it's just weird that it happened in 2020, because my life really wasn't affected that much. Like my day job. I know.
Shut up.
I know. It's like, I live in the Midwest, and I'm not saying we haven't been affected, but I am saying like general attitudes around here probably not as cemented as they are on like the coasts or
right.
The Pacific Northwest. So
we got rocked pretty hard.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too. Is like the area I'm in hasn't been the worst. Like,
yeah,
sorry, I know people who have been affected, and it is bad, but like just looking at the numbers, like what New York has had it way worse than we have.
For real. Are you guys pretty spread out where you are?
A little bit. Like I'm in the St. Louis area, and St. Louis as a city is really, really spread out. And then I live in the suburbs, outside of that. So it's pretty spread out. Yeah. I think a lot of people don't realize how freaking huge the Midwest is. Like St. Louis is so isolated. Like it's like 4 hours to get to Chicago and 4 hours to get to Kansas City, like in opposite directions. Like you're really, like I'm always surprised when like I think about the East Coast and people are like, yeah, Philly and New York and Jersey and Boston, they're all like within an hour of each other, like driving, you know what I mean? So you got all these like giant cities, they're all actually kind of close. And yeah, where I am, it's kind of like a lot of cornfields,
Yeah. I think I don't have such an extreme example. Like I'm 30 minutes from Portland, but like, then where's the next big city? You got to drive 3 hours to Seattle.
Yeah.
So I kind of get it a little bit, but yeah. I mean, we got rocked pretty hard out here. I'll tell you one thing, when this does go back to normal, working from home is going to be real hard to say goodbye to.
Yeah.
Because have you experienced that?
No, my job, I still had to go in every day for my job.
Okay. We might be a little bit even then, because I got to tell you, working from home has been effing spectacular.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I just don't know how we're going to go back. Like, I don't know if we have the maturity to say, okay, it's time. This generation, do we have the maturity?
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of people are going to like working from home a whole lot. Although the flip side to that is several of my friends that I know that do work from home, they kind of can't stand it, because they're people that need to separate their workplace from their home space. So like if they're working at home, it feels like an invasion of their privacy, like the sanctity of their home. And it just like really messes up their head. Like they can't feel comfortable in their own home knowing that they're like on the clock. It's really strange, but I guess I get it.
I have a cure for that.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Make sure your friends hear this.
Okay.
What you got to do is don't ever really work. When you're home, don't make it feel like your job. Just kind of pretend like you're working.
Right.
Instead, just kind of do your home shit.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, it's going to feel like you're getting paid for free.
Yeah.
It's going to be pretty good. That's what they got to do. That's the secret. But yeah, no, I kind of get that a little bit, because I do in my mind assign purpose to different spaces. Like I can't get my laptop and go right in the wrong room of my house, because I won't be able to do it. Right. I got to be in the right room. So I do understand how they can say, yeah, okay, what I've done here is completely eradicated my work-life balance by making I get that, but I don't know, man. It's a give and take. And I think what you take is just incredible from working from home. If I had it, and then let's be real also, I got to wear special like office clothes when I go to my job. That shit don't fit anymore.
Right.
Like after this, man, after like this long in quarantine,
yeah.
like I tried, but I put on some quarantine pounds and I will basically have to replace my entire wardrobe when I go back to work.
Well, that's one thing. I made sure that I continued to exercise and diet throughout all of the year. So thankfully, I can say I haven't really put on any COVID weight. So I got that going.
I tried. How old are you, man?
Hang on, I got to do some math. I'm 38.
You're 38. I'm 37.
Okay. So we're like right in the same zone.
I tried really, really hard to work out. I keep hurting myself.
Oh man.
I can't it makes me mad because it's like I have the best intentions. I want to be smart. I want to be responsible. But like at the same time, is it responsible to try to work through an injury and make it worse? Because literally, like, so right now, my right arm and left leg are numb.
Oh no.
And I've been trying to figure out why.
Yeah.
And it's been like a whole thing. I'm trying to go to doctors. I'm getting the runaround on like getting like, ultrasounds. Like,
yeah.
Last thing I knew, he was saying maybe I had like an artery that was blocked in my chest and they might have to remove my ribs. Like maybe my rib bone is too big. And
oh my gosh.
that sounds pretty friggin' that sounds pretty nuts. I don't know what's going to happen, but long and short of it is I try to work out, man. I just keep hurting myself because I'm old.
Yeah. You got to be careful.
Dolph Lundgren shredded in his 70s.
Some people, I think their bodies just take to being shredded,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm jealous. I mean, I guess that's what, millions of dollars and roids and diet coaches and personal trainers can buy you. But
yeah,
man, like I just feel like it's got to be possible because Dolph is shredded.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I just can't make this happen, dude. I don't know what's up. It's rough.
Yeah, I've hurt myself a few times and it's forced. I was like really worried that I was going to mess up my back because like I pushed myself pretty hard, like on the weights, like doing squats and deadlifting and stuff. And it's like, you got to be a little careful with that sometimes because you could really mess something up if you don't do it right. And there was one time where I was out. Like I felt like such an old person because it's like all of a sudden my back hurt and then I was like, I don't even want to move. I need to just lay on the couch. And and I was like, oh my gosh. Thankfully it cleared up and I haven't had any real problems. So I'm hoping it wasn't anything serious or something that's not going to come back around the next time unexpectedly. But
what sucks about the back, man, is they have like literally nothing to help you.
Yeah, exactly. Like your back is like
it's like the most important part of your body.
Right.
And if you mess it up, they're like, well, that sucks, man. That's your life now.
Yeah, you just live with the pain.
Yeah.
Back pain is rough.
Here's my thing. Why are we working on that kind of shit?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, why are we trying to do like this crazy far out there? Why do we have deep fake technology before we can fix the back?
Because deep fake technology is funnier.
Yeah, it is. It is funnier. It's a lot funnier.
Did you see that? Did you see that show that the South Park guys did? Like their little deep fake show?
No.
It was just like it just dropped out of nowhere. It's on YouTube. It's like sassy something, but it's Trump. Like they deep fake Trump, former president Donald Trump, but at the time it was because it was last year, so it was when he was still president, I guess. But they and he's like doing like a Geraldo. He's like a journalist, and he's like, they just like it's just Trump's face, but they like make him into this silly character, and it's like all like a big fake news thing, and they get. It was pretty good. I would recommend looking it up. It was funny, but it just kind of came out of nowhere. It was like, oh, I guess this is what they're working on instead of South Park, because South Park they're just kind of doing that whenever they want. I think.
I feel like they can't do their normal workflow. They had the South Park workflow was a very fragile thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this kind of just upset to the point where they couldn't do it like they used to.
I wondered
under
about
these
that.
conditions.
Yeah, I
Well, because
wondered. Yeah, go
they
ahead.
even had a documentary, man. You remember that where it was
I did.
like 48 hours to air or whatever?
I liked that documentary a whole lot. I wish it
Yeah.
had been about an episode that I liked a little bit more. I just remember not liking that episode that much. The episode in question, like that they made the documentary during. But I liked the documentary quite a bit because it's a good look at how they make the show.
Yeah, I feel like maybe it's just like they had their workflow. You know, they've been doing this for so many years, and this just upset things to the point that doing South Park the way they normally do is not possible. So they're just not trying to. You know, that was my read on it.
You know, that's the weirdest thing. I don't think I actually even considered that all, you know, the whole 2020 various quarantine stuff would have interrupted the way they produced the show. Like maybe they didn't want to bring everybody into the writer's room, and it's animators sitting there working on it nonstop for a week. You know, they want to space it out a little bit more. I mean, that would make sense. I'm having my mind blown right now. I didn't even consider that.
Well, you are welcome, my man.
I'm so selfish. I just want my dang cartoons.
I know, dude. Well, I think, I also think there's something noble about them wanting to make sure quality control, is a thing. So maybe that's part of it too. Like they're just like, yeah, we don't know for 100% that we can deliver like we want to. So let's just not try and make it so that we just kind of do a series of specials or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was my read on it.
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. Yeah.
I hope they return to normal when the world can return to normal. But I don't know. Do you think we're going to be going to movie theaters and stuff again, or do you think that's just over forever?
I think so. I really do think I've been saying from the beginning that this is just going to be like a new flu type thing. It just needs to pass through the system. People will get herd immunity. It's going to be less lethal over time because the rather unfortunate reality is that the people that are most susceptible to it will have died, and that's how viruses have worked for the entirety of human history. So humanity is pretty adaptable, and I think that people are going to adapt and get over this pretty quickly.
But are they able to combat their own laziness and desire to just stay in their house all the time when it's been made so easy to do?
I think that's actually going to be the biggest hurdle. Yeah.
I'm not wondering if we'll go back to theaters because theaters can't open. I'm wondering if we will be able to get humans to leave their fucking houses.
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering.
Well, that's been I think that's always kind of been part of the conversation about the movie industry, is as TVs keep getting bigger and bigger and people are getting home theaters and we're moving into streaming now. And it seemed like 2020 just sort of like sped the whole thing along, like over, it would have been like the next 10 years of development. We would have seen this change, but it just like happened all in 1 year, because they had no choice. And I definitely think, I think there's going to be, I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but I do think that there's always going to be an aspect of people just like going to the theater. Again, talking about that like use of spaces, I think people like to just be at a theater because that's where you go to see a movie. And I also think there's something to be said for the almost like the deprivation, like sensory deprivation aspect of a movie theater. Like when you go to a theater, I mean, unless you've got like a weak bladder, I know you're always going to have people like munching on popcorn and there's going to be other people there, but it's not exactly the same as being in your home where you just kind of get up, walk into the kitchen, to the fridge. If there's other people there, you're not going to be constantly pausing the movie. You're playing on your phone. There's obviously so much more pressure to not be playing on your phone in a movie theater. And I think it kind of goes back to that, like, that dedicated space of like movie theater spaces where you go to watch a movie. When you're at home in your living room, the living room is for lots of things. Watching a movie is one of them. So you feel totally comfortable kind of doing other things while the movie is on and you're not really paying attention.
I definitely get that.
Yeah.
I just worry. I am afraid of the young generation and the future that they bring, which to me looks terrible.
Yeah.
But like, because it's also like, I like CDs too, man, but the kids don't give a shit about that, so those go away. Like, it's like anything else. I feel that way about the movie theater, but maybe they just aren't going to care. And maybe with them will come, the death. Well, so far, everything that I love has been destroyed. Let's go through the list. Tower Records. I loved that place. Sonic the Hedgehog. He was cool back in the 90s. Now he blows. I really, really loved Weezer, and look what happened to that.
Oh my God. Like you're going down a very dangerous personal path if we want to talk about Weezer. Weezer meant a lot to me back in 1999.
But you don't have any effing idea. You don't have any idea. I promise.
I will agree. I know. Yeah. Weezer hits people very hard, and
it's the most abusive relationship I've ever been in.
Yeah, exactly.
And so this is what I'm saying, man. Everything that I have loved, I've just watched slowly wither and just like mutate into the Hellraiser version of it. So it's like, how long till they come to the theaters? This might just be it now, and it's like, I don't really want to spend like 100% of my, movie time just in my apartment. I want to go to a dedicated space for it. I want to go see live music and all this stuff, but I don't know, man. I think maybe we showed the Generation Z kids that they don't ever have to leave, and maybe they're not gonna, and then the money won't be there to keep them afloat.
Yeah. We're see.
Dinosaurs, Aaron.
Yeah, I've been a dinosaur for a long time. I was born a grumpy old man. I've been complaining about kids since I was a kid.
Yeah, me too. I was not happy to be a child because everyone I knew was an idiot. No one had any resources.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, what do I want to talk to you friggin' idiots for? Like, you don't have the hindsight. Like, I was very angry to be a child.
Yeah.
I was born an old man also, which is one of the reasons I'm like not as terrified about like, creeping through my late 30s as I might be.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I guess I'm having a very similar thing. Like, I guess I'm approaching 40, which I talked to a friend recently who was telling me about how he just had his 40th birthday, and he feels all this tremendous pressure to like really get going and get work on stuff and be productive, et cetera, and I just feel like I've always felt like I've always been creeping toward 40 like my entire life, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I just like feel like this is just where this is the zone I've always existed in.
Me too, man. I feel that way too. I'm not totally deaf to the societal pressure.
Sure.
I'm hearing it, and like, just if we're being totally objective, like, I have relatively little to show for my years. And yes, in the afterlife, my ancestors are probably going to be really pissed about the struggles they overcame just so that I could be in my late 30s. And like, my main preoccupation is, how do I find a copy of Mardi Gras Massacre on VHS on eBay? Because I can't find it anywhere. And like, that's what I worry about, And they're like, we fucking fought through world wars for this kid. Like, they're probably going to be really upset with me, but
they're probably also grateful that you have air conditioning, and they're just happy for you. At least
you don't know. No,
at least he lives.
You don't know
nice,
my
cool
lineage.
Existence. Oh yeah, that's fair enough.
They're very mad at me.
Oh no.
Yeah, I'm going to hear a lot about it. What do you do?
Yeah. So, talking about movie theaters though too, I do think that this is a thing that I hear people say, and I'm curious to see if it'll play out. But there is also that aspect of the types of movies that are made to be on the big screen. Like, I've been seeing a lot of people say that about the Godzilla versus Kong movie that just came out.
Right.
And that did you see it? Have you watched it yet?
I'm dying to. I want to. We were going to yesterday, and it didn't end up happening. But we want to very badly.
I saw,
and everyone's saying it's a big screen movie.
It's a big screen movie. I watched it on my TV, on HBO Max. I do have a big TV, and I don't have like a killer sound system, but I got a good enough sound system. But I had some friends who like really wanted to go see it in a theater, and we actually have some drive-in movie theaters in our area. So I know
That's killer.
yeah, that drive-in, their opening weekend was with Godzilla versus King Kong, and boy, that place was sold out, packed. You know, everybody was there to see Godzilla versus King Kong.
I'm so happy it's doing so well.
It is. I mean, apparently it's breaking records, but that's also one of those like low bars. Like I saw a thing of like it beat Wonder Woman 84 at the box office, and I'm like, well, who's surprised to hear that? That that movie was like delayed, and it finally came out when people were still paranoid to go anywhere or do anything. Like there were still states like shut down in many ways when it came out. So
I keep remembering that even happened. I'm like, oh yeah, they did do that.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't seen Wonder Woman 84, and I keep like being surprised when I remember that it exists.
Yeah, I never bother with it. I actually don't bother with most movies, but I did watch Godzilla versus Kong, and I was pleasantly surprised. It's not like the greatest movie. I mean, I was very, very harsh on the previous Godzilla movies. I thought that the 2014 one was okay, but kind of boring. Like, and not in the way, because like everybody's complaining, like, it didn't have enough monster fights. I actually liked all of that. I liked the way it like would cut from the monster fights, or the way you'd see it like from the perspective of the people, so you couldn't really get the whole visual until the end, and then you had the big. I thought that was a good creative choice. I just thought the characters that they wrote for the movie were boring as all heck. And that's fine if you want to make your movie all about these human characters, but they need to be good characters, and it was not.
It was a very slow and gray movie.
Yeah, it was very slow and gray. And King of the Monsters had a different problem. I'm always complaining about movie studios because I think they just take the wrong messages from audiences. Like the audiences complain. So they heard the complaints. The 2014 Godzilla was boring. So this next one, it's going to be all monster fights. But like, it looked terrible. Right. It was like that. I've been saying that movie is the epitome of Hollywood's orange and teal problem. Because like every single frame of that film, it was either 98% colored teal or 98% colored orange. Like it was so ugly. I could not stand. And it's like, it's fine if you're going to make the movie all about the monster fights. I'm okay with that. You can scale back on the human characters, except that the human drama in that movie was also laughably bad. But I
also feel like the creature designs were really poor.
Yeah, it was just poor. Like
they were really poor.
Yeah. So I was well, yeah.
It matters when you're making a monster movie.
Exactly. It can't be ugly. It needs to look good. And so that's why I was pleasantly surprised by Godzilla versus Kong. I actually think they took all the right things from Kong Skull Island, which I liked.
Kong Skull Island was, I thought, pretty damn good.
Yeah, same. I was, again, because like I watched the two Godzilla movies and I wasn't even interested in watching Kong Skull Island because I hated the Godzilla movies so much. But I watched it and I was like, wow, that was actually a pretty good movie. Great actors, and it looked good. Like it had good visuals. Like you could see what was going on the screen. It was like good looking.
John C. Reilly and John Goodman are both two of my all-time favorite actors.
Yeah.
I fully believe they're perfect in everything that they're in, especially John Goodman is perfect in everything. That movie had both of them, which was pretty good.
Totally. Yeah.
But I also think there's just something special about King Kong. There's like for when that came out, Godzilla exists because the original King Kong movie was so popular in Japan.
Yeah.
That guy, there's just something about him that resonates with the human experience. So I think that making sure Kong has a kind of heart to him is important. I'm hoping they did that with this. I haven't seen it yet.
I won't spoil anything, but
please don't spoil anything.
But yeah, like I said, I was happy with it. As somebody who hated the two Godzilla movies and liked Kong Skull Island, I was happy with it.
Have you seen the old King Kong versus Godzilla?
Yes, I have. The Toho one. That was like was that like the third Godzilla movie that they made? It was really surprisingly early. Like I thought
they did.
yeah. Go ahead.
I think it's the fourth, maybe it's the third. I can't remember if Godzilla versus Mothra comes before or after that. I can't remember. That might be the third. You might be right, because he's frozen at the beginning of it.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of Godzilla Raids Again, he gets frozen. So that might be number 3. I can't. And then after that comes Mothra. You maybe are correct. I can't.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. But my favorite thing about the original Godzilla versus King Kong is that a major like plot point is that King Kong has like massive substance abuse issues. King Kong is basically an alcoholic, so they can manipulate him.
Yeah.
Like that's the whole point. He's addicted to like the booze juice from the berries.
Yeah.
So like most of the movie is getting King Kong drunk enough to transport him.
Right. Yeah. It's great. Yeah.
That is wonderful. That is built for a Homer Simpson parody episode right there. If there hasn't already been one, which there probably has.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, are you a fan of the old Toho Godzilla films? Do you like those?
Yeah, I love them. I love that stuff. I own every single one of the Toho films. I actually own all the Godzilla movies up to King of the Monsters. I don't have that one. But I love the old. I hated Shin Godzilla, the recent one.
Really?
I hated it.
Okay. Well,
I'll tell you exactly why if you want to know.
I do, because I really liked it.
Okay, so one, this is a smaller point that I could completely disregard if it weren't for the other points.
Okay.
But for one, I do strongly hate what they did with the character. I think that they have abused the IP to the point that it's just irreparably severed from what it was supposed to be. Like he's like at the end, like what, he's like a cluster of weird Godzilla zombies. Like how the fuck did that happen? What does that even mean? Like there's that last shot where they pan up his tail and there's like all these little like humanoids
like
what the fuck is that? Like how is Godzilla supposed to be like a cluster of tiny cycloptic like what? I don't understand what that's supposed to be. But like I don't know. I hate the designs. I hate the art direction. I hate all that. But what I have a bigger problem with is that I found it to be crazy boring. I thought it started off good because now Godzilla is less about the specter of atomic war and more about both ecological irresponsibility and just bureaucracy.
Yeah, yeah.
As someone who hates the government like I do, I know that you appreciate that.
Yeah,
a big
absolutely.
point of Shin Godzilla is that the government is incompetent.
Right.
And that's most of the movie.
Yeah.
I like that. But I felt like it didn't sustain the rest of the movie, and most of it was just very boring to me. It was just, and then we like freeze him and he's a statue. I don't know. I just hated it.
I do think that the design is very off-putting. I didn't like it at first, and I don't like it. Like I accept it as part of the movie, and I still like the movie, and I actually even almost like it because I don't like the design. Like it's like weird and it's like goofy in some ways, and then really off-putting and disgusting in other ways. And I appreciate that it really, like, it made him look really alien or like otherworldly, not just like a rubber suit lizard, you know?
Yeah.
Because like even just like some of the ways that he moved, it just was like this isn't like a creature like that we know, something that we've seen before. And so that was obviously the intent, I think. I mean, the guy that directed that is the guy that did Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Right. So
he definitely was, I'm sure he was definitely trying to go for like this like really weird off-putting thing. But I enjoyed that one quite a bit.
Everybody did, man.
Yeah.
I feel pretty alone in how much I hated it, but
yeah, I think you might be. Yeah.
It's lonely over here.
Yeah,
but
and we all have our things.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're coming up on an hour here. I try to keep these at about an hour long. So I know we talked a little bit earlier about your film that you're working on. Like you said you were writing a book. Is that mostly what you've been working on throughout this like last year or so? Like, is that what you've been filling your time like while around working from home?
I think so the book I've been working on at a pretty steady pace since like for a couple years now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a major project. Basically, the idea is that so I don't really want to go over time. Maybe I'll just give it to you and you cut what you cut around.
Oh, we can. We're fine. Like it's a loose time. Like I'm not going to have a hard out, but you know, I'm just going to be mindful of it. You know, I honestly the second episode I did went for 2 hours because my guest we were just chatting and like I said, desperate to talk comics. So
Roger.
Fine.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm German.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a bit of an insight into this. But I think a lot of Americans don't really recognize the role censorship plays in how Europeans experience media. And I don't think a lot of Europeans are really that cognizant of it either, unless they're very, very fixated on extreme strains of media.
Mm-hmm.
But censorship is a very real factor that plays into availability of films in Europe.
Oh,
it's It's very big. So when I come to the States, I became very aware of that. And it's forced me into a place where I feel obligated to buy things and own things that I wouldn't be able to get.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of pushed me in this direction. But so if you look at the heyday of like ultra violence in the mainstream in cinema, that's going to be like the 70s and 80s when the video nasty craze was going on in Europe. In the Italians and the Spanish, and even to some lesser degree, the English were putting out a lot of really, really gory, grisly horror movies that we love and cherish today. But Germany is basically a total non-participant in this.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, their only participation is in co-funding some movies. Like they gave Jesus Franco money to do a movie called Bloody Moon, and that's about the closest thing they have to a credit in the video nasty phase. So why is that? Well, there's a lot of reasons. World War II devastated the German film industry because obviously Germany basically absorbed the film industry.
I was about to say
before World War II.
Yeah.
So before World War II, Germany led the world in film production.
Right.
Then the Nazis take over the film studios, and when the Nazis go, the film studios go, and then all of the Jewish people who had been working in the film industry had moved to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So Germany basically has to start over from scratch with no elders to teach them how to make movies. Yeah. And you end up having an attitude that's very artsy fartsy, the new German cinema. You have these guys who don't want to be considered, anything as vulgar as like a mainstream pop cinema film.
Right.
And at that time, beyond that, censorship ticks up in a big way, and never elsewhere in the human experience has the Germans' appetite for domestic produced violence been less ravenous. They just don't want to see it.
Yeah.
So then you fast forward to like the 80s and 90s, what you have is little kids in Germany who just want to make monster movies like everybody else, and they can't. They're not legally allowed to.
Okay.
So my movie is trying to look at the German splatter film boom that happened and sort of saying that is Germany's version of the UK's punk movement.
Okay. I get
or
that.
Norway's black metal thing. What we have here is a counterculture, youth culture movement.
Mm-hmm.
It's kids who say, we don't want to be responsible for the actions of our grandparents. We don't want all of that. We don't want there to be that much significance over every little thing we do. We just want to make a stupid monster movie like everybody else.
Right.
And so what they end up doing is just making really, really bad movies on camcorders.
Okay.
And showing, and there's like a tape trading scene and all this stuff. I don't know how much of what I just said explanation is going to be usable to you, but basically.
No, I totally get it. Yeah.
The book is supposed to explore this little circle of movies that popped up in the late 80s and early 90s in Germany as being a very valid but seldom explored form of kind of youth culture rebellion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anyone really looks at these movies and has that conversation because most of the movies suck so effing hard. They're terrible. From like an academic perspective, these are terrible movies, but we don't want to be Stalinist. They happened. Let's let them be part of the conversation. So a big part of what's been difficult about this is just getting them.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
A lot of it's been hard. It's been hard to get these movies.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been writing this book for a long time, and it's about that. And that's going pretty good.
That's cool. So the book is just like like nonfiction historical account, or?
Yeah, basically. Well, so there's it's kind of chunk in two chunks. There's one that is just me talking about each and every one of these movies.
Mm-hmm.
I watch them, I assess them, I talk about them, and then there's another chunk of it that's going to be kind of exploring like why this happened, why I think it's a part of the conversation that's worth looking at.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough because I want to interview a lot of these people, and it's hard to do that when a big part of my conversation is going to be that their movies suck really bad.
Right.
I feel bad. Like, I feel bad talking to this guy and trying to be, you know, I don't think they're really used to being interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to be your friend a little bit. And it's like, I feel so bad because your movies suck.
Yeah.
Like, it's really hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's a challenging thing.
I totally understand that as somebody who's a big fan of the So Bad They're Good movies. You know,
yeah.
I love watching bad movies. Did you ever, I assume you saw the documentary Best Worst Movie about Troll 2?
It's probably on the shelf behind me right now.
Yeah, but like what you're saying just totally makes me think of when they got the director of Troll 2 and they brought him to America to go to the festival, and they're like interviewing him and talking to him, and you can just see the things slowly turn in his head when he realizes that they don't actually like the movie, and he thinks that he actually made a good movie, you know, and it's so awkward and weird, and I love it, like in the documentary. But man, if I had been there, I would have been like, oh my God, like this is so awkward.
That's Claudio Fragasi, and he's one of those guys. He's like very low level Italian, like gore merchant back in the day. He never really made anything that was any good.
Right.
But yeah, you can tell he's got a bit of an ego.
Yeah.
It's rough. Fortunately, there are some of these movies I think that are actually really great. But some of them, a lot of them are really terrible. But yeah. So the book's about that. I would think that's maybe 25% of my creative energy, and then 25% of my creative energy is on just making the music, recording the album, and all that business. And then the other 50% of my creative energy is just scrabbling desperately to try to get a foothold in this weird world we live in.
Yeah, I get that. But I mean, have you been keeping busy? Like, do you struggle to kind of like stay motivated to keep working on stuff?
No. I think that keeping working on stuff is very easy for me. I have like more or less every hour of my day planned, and I know what I'm going to do, and I get it done. Like I can do that very well, and I've been steadily making progress on all of these things. Keeping motivated is not really that hard, but I did struggle with it a little bit during the pandemic, because some of these things, especially writing, at first I thought I could crank it up on the book and I could get a lot more work done during the pandemic. And then I would sit there and I would just not be able to do it.
Yeah.
Like something about it. I found it really hard to work more than I had been. Although I felt like I had this great opportunity to do that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people that's one of the things they've been struggling with, is that I mean that's actually a common thing of just that feeling of like I should be working, but I need to relax, you know, but then I can't relax because I know I should be working, but I can't work because I'm stressed out and I need to relax, and it's just sort of this like endless cycle that just keeps feeding into itself. That's why I like you saying like working with like everything scheduled out. I think that's the most important thing. That's what's really helped me, is just, you know, I just stick to a schedule, you know, dedicate this time to this, dedicate this time to that, you know, and just, I again, like, I don't have too much trouble with the motivation thing either. I just like doing it. And I just feel like I always need to be working, and I'm like the type of person that needs to remind myself like, hey, watch a movie every now and then, you know, like you need to do something that you like.
What sucks for me is like, there's so many movies that I don't watch because I feel like, well, I don't want to watch this without also doing a podcast episode about it, or I don't want to watch this movie without also writing about it. And I'm like, and I wind up in this position where I'm almost paralyzed because I can't just watch a movie sometimes. I feel like I have to then do something with that experience too. Right. So that is something I struggle with.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's what Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and everything else is for. Just start blabbing whatever you think on there. That's how the normal people do it.
I'm a complete Twitter failure. I cannot do Twitter. I don't understand it.
Yeah, I have the same problem. That's actually something I've been talking with so far with everybody on the show, is like navigating social media and how do you make it work for you. And I think the common consensus is nobody knows. Like, it either just works or it doesn't. There's no like one simple trick, to just like, make Twitter work or make Facebook work or, get views on, your YouTube channel. It's just like either it happens or it doesn't, and everybody's just doing whatever they want. And
well, I think that's kind of just like the new world version of like right place, right time type thing. Like if you were in a rock band in the 70s,
yep,
either you were playing the right club, the right day, that the right guy was there to see you, or you weren't, and that's what made the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like now, like 100 people can do the exact same thing with every social media platform there is, and like one of them just gets lucky. There's there's like an element of luck to it.
I think so too. Absolutely. It's strange.
Twitter's the one I understand not at all.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't get it.
I'll also totally cop to, just as somebody who I've always hated texting culture. Like, even like, because like I'm somebody who didn't get a smartphone until like way after high school. Like, I didn't grow up with texting. Yes, I'm an old person. I didn't get a smartphone and like till I started doing comic book conventions, which was like less than 10 years ago. But
what year do you think it was?
It was 2013 or 14 is when I got a smartphone.
Okay, I win then, because I got mine around 2008 or 2009, and I felt like I was a holdout.
Yeah. Well, I did have a phone like that was capable of, like, it was like a flip phone, like a Sprint.
Yeah,
like I could text with it, but like I didn't get like an iPhone or like an Android thing until 13 or 14, somewhere around there. I guess it was it might have been 14. Yeah. So, but and I just have always hated texting. Like, I mean, I like it now because I appreciate the utility of it. But at the time, there was like this, it wasn't quite as ubiquitous as it is now. Like, now everything is just texting. But it's weird to think, like, at the time, like phone plans, it cost extra to like text. And, it wasn't just so easy and simple as it is now. And there was like this whole culture about it of, people would text specific ways. I think there was also it was definitely also a generational thing. Like, I was probably, we are the last generation who like didn't have it like as kids, like ingrained in us, but then all of a sudden it's like in your life and like a necessary part of your life, So.
I 100% remember sitting in like the break room of my shitty coffee shop that I worked at with some kid who was like 8 years younger than me, and like giving it to him really hard because he was texting. And at that point, I'd never sent a text message in my life.
Yeah.
How like lame it was, and like, oh, I'll just hop on my little text machine, LOL. And like, I definitely was that guy.
Yeah, same. I was that guy too. Yeah.
But now I'm like, I see the value in being able to tell you something without having to talk to you.
Right. And like, also that you can respond at your leisure. Like, you don't have to answer the phone right now so I can tell you this one thing. There's a lot of value in that.
Right. Yeah. So like, I do feel like a massive hypocrite because I definitely was very staunchly anti-texting.
Yeah.
And now I'm like texting like just like crazy.
Yeah. I same way, but that hasn't made me like Twitter, because I think Twitter was born out of that whole texting culture. And I've never liked the limitation on characters. I understand why they do it. Like, it works for their platform. And again, being born out of texting culture, when, it was a time where you were very limited on the amount you could text. Like, it would be broken up into, various different messages if it was too long. And that's not really an issue now, but it used to be. So, yeah, I don't know. Twitter, it's just not, there's something about it. It just doesn't fit with my personality or something. I don't know.
It's a social media platform defined by its limitations in my mind.
Yeah, you know, I mean,
It's
it is.
defined by
Yeah.
limitations. And I don't see the value. I used to think that about Instagram too. I was like, well, why would I do Instagram when I already have Facebook and I can do pictures on that?
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the value of Instagram was that I suddenly could get on a platform and not see all the content that was just pissing me off so badly
Right.
on.
Yeah. That makes sense. I get that.
I felt like Instagram was better for that. I did
Mhm.
have to see a lot of stuff that I thought was lower level obnoxious, but it felt less toxic.
Yeah.
I still have yet to find value in Twitter of any kind.
Yeah. I mean, I'm officially on social media just for the basic utility of it, but I definitely came to a place where I was like, you know, I can't let this just like be a big part of my life. Like I can't, like I know people that just like live on Facebook, and I can see how it affects them. Like, you know, like it's like their mood will change on a dime based off of something that they scroll past on Facebook. And I'm just like,
I'm that guy, man.
Yeah, and it's just like I don't need that, you know. I don't need that.
I see so much stuff on there because I do have a lot of I don't know. There's just a lot of things that I really hate about the world right now.
Right,
and
yeah.
Facebook's designed to force them into my awareness.
Yeah.
That's what it does.
Yeah.
So it is really rough. It's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone through periods where I've thought that there might not be any real value in it. I go back and forth on that, but I don't know. I might be somewhat addicted to it also. It's rough, man.
Yeah. Man, I hear you.
One of these days we're going to look back on how we use social media today and think, man, what were they thinking?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Well, man, I think we're going to wrap this up. I appreciate you talking to me. I always like just chatting about creative stuff and seeing how things go. You know, if you want to, if you want to, next time you have a movie that you want to watch, but you feel like you can't watch it because you need to talk about it first, let me know. We'll do an episode. We'll just dedicate a podcast episode to some, you know, whatever you want to talk about. Cool. Yeah, I had really considered doing that with when the Snyder Cut, the Justice League movie came out, because I actually had successfully avoided seeing all of Zack Snyder's movies because, you know, we did previously talk on my old podcast about Watchmen. And I, you know, as you might remember, I do not like Zack Snyder. Neither of us liked Watchmen movie. But I thought maybe I'll do some podcast stuff about it. And then I just didn't, because it's, you know, it's a whole thing. But yeah, man, like we can do this again, do a little like mini movie, like sub episodes of this.
You got me, man. I'm there.
Oh, right on. All right. Well, you know what? I guess I should say your name is Christopher J. Ochs. Introducing and saying goodbye to Christopher J. Ochs.
You pronounced it correctly. I'm delighted and honored. Thank you. It's a very highly specified regional pronunciation. So
I remember you. I mean, you pronounced it for me the last time we spoke, so I had that advantage.
I appreciate it all the same. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, thanks again, dude. We will definitely talk again in the future.
Perfect. Rock and roll, dude. Later.
Yep. Hey, everybody, Aaron Walther here, just reminding you that if you like this podcast, please subscribe to the channel. Also, head over to secondthoughtcomics.com to stay up to date on the various comics that I write. For a limited time, I'm giving away a free PDF of my latest graphic novel, The Amoral Stingray. All you have to do is sign up to the Second Thought Comics newsletter. Link is in the description. Thanks for reading.